Part 12. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 112. Gao Jingcheng frowned and looked at the sudden appearance of a family of three. His face was extremely ugly, and he angrily scolded the security guard for not throwing this person out. The glorious security guard took money to do things, and stepped forward ready to blast them. At this moment, Ji Jing's mother she quit, lying on the steps and started yelling that her heart hurt. Her son was still a human being, and he was pushing and shoving with the security guard. He couldn't get rid of his 200-pound body for a while. Guan Yunbiao continued to sit next to Han Qian and watch the excitement. His subordinates pointed at the security guards of glory and laughed, with no concealment of ridicule. 5 or 6 security guards with big muscles and round waists couldn't even deal with these 3 people. At this moment, Ji Jing ran over and yelled to stop. Gao Xingcheng ignored Ji Jing and signaled the security guard to continue. He had never given this woman face. Han Qian slowly turned his head and looked at her from bottom to top. Looking at Ji Jing. Wearing white sneakers and a white outfit with light blue stripes, Ji Jing's figure is really not that good. She is like a glass of red wine that has been collected for many years, exuding a fruity aroma. At this time, Ji Jing's father walked around. The security guard rushed towards Ji Jing, waved his hand and slapped her in the face. "You little beast, do you just want to see your mother and your brother being bullied by them?" Ji Jing's father is very tall. This merciless slap instantly made the side of Ji Jing's face red and swollen. Then he didn't give up. He rushed forward and grabbed Ji Jing's hair tied behind her head and dragged her away. Going down the stairs, Ji Jing's slender figure could not withstand her father's brute strength, and she was dragged down the stairs. At this time, people in the lobby on the first floor were also running out, not to watch the fun, but to protect Ji Jing. Han Qian has been sitting on the steps without moving. His eyes have been looking at Ji Jing's eyes. When their eyes met, Ji Jing spoke. "Help me. Save. She must be rescued." Han Qian learned what happened to the girl from Guandegu yesterday. If Ji Jing was taken away today, maybe she would follow the same path as that girl. Han Qian has also been waiting for Ji Jing to speak. He stood up and walked down the stairs and said calmly to Ji Jing's father, "Release your hands." When Han Qian was walking down a flight of steps, Gao Jingcheng winked at the security guard. Ji Jing's more than 200-pound brother suddenly lost his restraints and strode towards Han Qian, cursing. "Who do you think you are?" Seeing the fat man who weighed more than 200 pounds standing in front of him, Ji Jing had been dragged down the stairs. Han Qian sighed. When he waved his hand and was about to punch, his arm was held by Guan Yunbiao. He smiled at Han Qian and shook it. "Shake his head. I'm better at this than you. The girl you're talking about is her, I guess. You guys go. As for this fat man, he's a bit blocking the view." The younger brothers were no longer laughing. In fact, they were approaching Ji Jing's father with ferocious faces. Some of them had even pulled out sticks from behind their waists. Ji Jing's brother was already squatting on the steps with his head in his hands, because Guandegu had drawn out his stick. He grabbed the machete he carried with him and pointed the sword at the fat man's face. He was no longer arrogant and did not even dare to raise his head. At this time, Ji Jing's father also raised his hands and let go of Ji Jing. At this moment, Ji Jing was very depressed. She had lost one of her shoes and was sitting on the ground with disheveled hair. Han Qian stepped forward to pick up the shoes and walked towards Ji Jing to help her put on the shoes. He stretched out his hands from her armpits to put on the shoes. The woman hugged him. Ji Jing was really frightened. She was scared and panicked. She was afraid of being taken away from here by her parents. If she left, she knew she would never come back. Letting Han Qian's arm touch her, she suddenly turned around and hugged Han Qian's neck after standing up. Tears fell one by one on Han Qian's shoulders. Now she could only rely on this man. Han Qian did not hug Ji Jing, but let her hug him. He pointed at Ji Jing's father with one hand and said softly, "Should we find a place to sit down and talk, or should we send you all to the hospital now? I'll cover the medical bills. Brother Guan, give me the money." The black plastic bag hit the fat man on the head, and a wad of bright red bills fell on the steps. But no one dared to pick it up. Touching the money would mean being sent to the hospital. Half an hour later, in the small conference room on the first floor of Glory, Han Qian was sitting on a chair, Ji Jing was standing behind Han Qian holding her shoulders with both hands, and Guan Yunbiao was sitting on the chair next to Han Qian with his legs crossed and smoking a cigarette. Behind them are those ferocious-looking younger brothers. Gao Jingcheng didn't come over, but two security guards came over. Han Qian threw each of the security guards a cigarette he took from the army and said softly, "Go and turn off all the surveillance cameras in this room. You have nothing to do here. There is no need to come back." The two security guards obeyed. When they walked out of the conference room, Yan Qingqing came. After questioning the two, they learned that they were going to be monitored. Yan Qingqing did not let them go. Instead, she called Yang Lan and asked her to take them there. Ask Sul Yang to turn off the surveillance. Then he stood outside the conference room and listened to the conversation inside. Han Qian leaned back on the chair, tilted his head back slightly and touched Ji Jing's belly, and pouted at the family of three. "The purpose of your visit today is to ask for money, right? There is 100,000 on the table. Take it if you want it, but you have to leave something behind." Ji Jing's father and brother did not dare to speak, but her mother was not afraid. She looked at Han Qian fiercely and stood up and said angrily, "My daughter is worth 100,000. The matchmaker has already stepped on the threshold of our family, and offered to give us a gift of 300,000 plus a car. You want to send us away just for 100,000? Add another 200,000, and BMW will give you my son." Han Qian grinned after hearing this, but Guan Yunbiao couldn't hold it back, frowned and looked at Ji Jing and cursed. "Are you a humming fool? Do you want me to chop up your son right now and throw him into the sea to feed the fish? I don't care, just 300,000 plus a car, otherwise you won't be able to marry my daughter, or I will call the police now." Ji Jing's mother is really not a good person. This call to the police gave Guan Degu a headache. When the police came and saw him, even if he was right, it would be an extra crime. Han Qian motioned to Guan Yunbiao not to speak anymore, and faced Ji Jing. Jing Ma smiled. "Marry? When did I say that I wanted to marry Ji Jing? Don't have any whims. We have the final say on our relationship. Even if the police come, it will be useless. Ji Jing is already an adult and you have nothing to do with it. Do you understand? You asked for 300,000 yuan for a car. Is your son a cripple or a fool? I'll give you 100,000 yuan, and your son will leave 2 fingers. After all, you guys beat my woman indiscriminately. Don't tell me. It's my parents, even if the King of Heaven comes, it won't matter, you know? Brother Guan, let your people take action. I'm here in person. The last time I chopped off my parents' fingers like this was a few years ago. Brother Han, I bought a life stick and 2 fingers for 30,000 yuan at that time. You are a bit generous." After saying that, Guan Yunbiao drew out his dagger and stood up and walked towards Ji Jing's fat brother. Ji Jing was a little nervous and squeezed Han Qian's shoulder hard, but Han Qian turned around and became furious. "What? Can't stand it anymore? Are you feeling distressed? If you feel distressed, get the hell out of here." Ji Jing looked at Han Qian blankly and in disbelief, and Han Qian roared again. "Get out of here." Ji Jing cried again, covered her mouth and trotted out of the conference room. On the way out, she bumped into Yan Qingqing's arms. Yan Qingqing didn't say anything, but just told Songjing and Yang Jia to help Jijing go to her office first. In the conference room, the family of three finally got scared. Just now Jijing was here and they knew their daughter's character. But now that her daughter is gone, they are facing a stranger. The fat brother was even more frightened. He was pushed on the table, and his right hand was held down tightly. Guandegu was frying beans in a small pot with 5 fingers in a childish way, as if he was calculating which one to chop off. It was appropriate. Listening to the fat man crying for his father and begging for his mother, Guan Yunbiao raised his finger to his mouth. Shh. After I finish chopping off this hand, I will know which hand to chop off. Don't worry. It won't hurt. Guan Yunbiao raised his knife and dropped it, and Jijing's mother, who was being pinned down on the chair, shouted. Talk. Let's talk. The knife did not hurt the fat man. It was only 1 centimeter away from his fingertips. The short knife penetrated the wood 3 points. Han Qian curled his lips and looked at Jijing's mother and sneered. Do you know we can talk now? Okay, 80,000 yuan. Take the money and leave. Jijing will give you 3,000 yuan a month. If I know that you are calling to threaten her, I will have them rush to your house and chop you up. You can also call the police on your son's life, but I want to tell you in advance that Li Jinhai from the city bureau has something to do with me. After saying that, Han Qian took out his mobile phone and found Li Jinhai's call and played it directly. He pressed the phone on speakerphone and threw it on the table. Jijing's mother hesitated. After a while, the call was connected and Li Jinhai laughed loudly. Little bastard, you finally know how to call your second uncle? Tell me. Come here when? A few days ago, Li Er said that he saw you hanging out with Guandegu. Don't you learn? I have to go and beat him when I have time. Give him a moment. The sound of the mobile phone was very loud, and Jijing's mother's expression did not change. However, Guandegu was frightened and trotted to Han Qian's side, winking at him nervously, meaning don't let this black-faced Mr. Bao cause trouble for him. Jijing's family knew from Guandegu's face that the man on the phone was Li Jinhai, as Han Qian said, the second in command of the city bureau. Seeing that the family of 3 was silent, Han Qian took the phone and smiled. Second uncle, please stop scolding me. My mobile phone is very loud. When you scold me, my colleagues will hear it. Recently, I work at Honor. Honor and Tu Xiao have collaborated on a business. Tu Xiao is also ready to become a good citizen. You just don't cause trouble with Guan Yunbiao. Should I go over for dinner this Saturday? Should my aunt do the cooking or should I? Little brat, I, as an uncle, can't scold you anymore. Why don't you let your aunt do it? Come over and cook, and help me beat Li Er. By the way, this little brat has started to lose his temper with me recently, and I can't do that either. Put handcuffs on him and throw him in, right? If you have anything else to do, it's all over. There are still a few cases that need to be dealt with. Hey, bye. Han Qian threw his phone on the table again and smiled at Jijing's mother. We are talking? Which finger should I chop off? Monthly ticket, recommended ticket. Hit me. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 113. 80,000 yuan, you take it, take this fat pig away. Jijing will give you 3,000 yuan every month. Even if you starve to death, don't call her. Otherwise, I have many ways to deal with you. In addition, you leave me his phone number. As long as I don't see Jijing for a day, he will throw away one of his fingers. There are 21 fingers in total. You'd better not play any tricks. This 80,000 yuan is not because I think you are pitiful. It's the cost of Jijing's relationship with you, you know. Do you dare to agree? Now that Jijing is not here, if they dare to bargain, it will become 50,000 yuan, and their precious son will have his fingers chopped off. They didn't dare, so Han Qian stood up and threw the remaining 20,000 yuan to Guan Daegu. Take the little brothers to have a meal, it's a hot day. You can take 10,000 for yourself, and don't be greedy for the rest. Brother Han, this money. Am I sending you 3 melons and 2 dates? The money was stuffed into Guan Daegu's pocket. When Han Qian opened the door of the conference room, the boys behind him shouted in unison. Uncle is mighty. Han Qian was so clever that he almost didn't fall. He turned around and glared at Guan Daegu. Then he walked out of the office. Looking at Yan Qingqing, who looked unkind, Han Qian pointed upstairs and motioned to go back. He walked past the first floor. In the lobby, everyone looked at Han Qian with a bit of fear. They couldn't hear the conversation in the conference room, but they heard the words Uncle Mighty shouted by Guan Yunbiao in unison. Han Qian left, and Ji Jing's family of 3 also walked out of the conference room. Unfortunately, before they could walk out of the door of glory, Gao Xingcheng came with the police. I need a reasonable explanation for them pretending to be the parents of my company's executives and coming to my company to cause trouble and beat people up. The family of 3 finally admitted their defeat. When they were taken into the police car, Ji Jing's father thought of asking Ji Jing to come over and help them prove their identity. The call was answered by a man. Ah! Leaving. Uncle and aunt walk slowly. Toot toot. The phone was hung up, and when I called again it was turned off. Ji Jing's father gritted his teeth and cursed fiercely. Little beast. How can 3,000 a month be enough? At this time, Ji Jing's pig-like brother started acting up in the car. I want to get married, I want to marry her, you go and find a way for me, or I will go on a hunger strike and die in front of you. His mother couldn't stand it anymore, so she held her precious son in her arms and comforted him constantly. Mom will find a way for you, Mom will find a way for you. Over the years, they have become accustomed to spending a lot of money. The 3 of them do not go out to work or farm, so they rely on Ji Jing every month to ask for money to support them, buy mobile phones, computers, jewelry, and clothes, as long as they are expensive. Buy it, call and ask for it if you run out of money. But now that their financial path was cut off, Ji Jing's mother quietly discussed it with her husband in the car. How about deceiving my daughter back? When the time comes, what else can she do with her weak temper? As soon as he finished speaking, the policeman driving took out his walkie-talkie and frowned. Director, I suspect the people in my car are human traffickers. Call for backup. In Yan Qingqing's office, Han Qian sat on the general manager's chair and continued to tinker with the game. Mom has a saying that is right. If the money does not come from a good way, it will not come from a good way. The money obtained by defrauding the company will be given away. In the hospital, Lin Zongheng, an idiot, gave the money to Ji Jing's parents. I really followed this sentence, and Han Qian would not dare to accept such ill-gotten gains in the future. He had answered the call just now. He already knew that the 3 people had been taken away by the police. Han Qian didn't want Ji Jing to get into trouble. Listening to Ji Jing sitting on the sofa crying, Han Qian said angrily. Why are you crying? If your head hurts, let's go to the hospital. Look wherever it hurts. If you feel distressed, go out and chase them back and continue to lie on you and make blood-sucking insects. Is there anything that can't be solved? It's useful for you to cry. Ah! After being yelled at, Ji Jing raised her head and looked at Han Qian to stop crying. Then within 2 seconds, she raised her head and started crying. You let me go, you let me go. The wailings made Han Qian's head hurt. He dug out an earphone from the drawer and put it on his head. Out of sight and out of mind, he pretended not to hear anything. Yang Lan and Yan Qingqing comforted Ji Jing, explaining the truth to her. If she were in the conference room, could her parents be afraid? If Han Qian spoke softly to him, Her parents should think that Han Qian was fawning over her. After explaining the truth, Ji Jing stopped howling, but she was still crying. Han Qian couldn't stand it any longer. He stood up and glared at Ji Jing fiercely, gritting his teeth. "I want to eat dumplings." Ji Jing stopped crying and got up to buy it. Yan Qingqing slapped her on the forehead. In total, Han Qian's education in the past 2 days was of no use at all. Why didn't she refuse without understanding? Yang Lan blocked Ji Jing's arm and forced the silly girl back. Han Qian curled his lips and returned to the boss's chair. He put his feet on the table and said lazily with his eyes closed. "You give them 3,000 yuan a month. This has a big impact on you. Yan Qingqing, don't glare at me. If you don't give them money, her parents have the right to sue her for not supporting the elderly. This just transfer the money to them on a monthly basis. Don't even think about going home in a short period of time. If you go back, they may sell you to an old man from Shangaogu as a wife. They won't let you wear clothes day or night. The kind that goes out and keeps having babies, having babies, having babies, having babies." Ji Jing cried again, this time because she was frightened by Han Qian. Yan Qingqing's shoes flew over Han Qian's head and she said angrily. "Can you speak? Why are you scaring her? Also, did you spend the 100,000 yuan you just got from Tu Xiao again? Han Qian, are you a money-splitting boy? You will never be able to repay your money in your lifetime. Dead." Han Qian closed his eyes and said calmly. "It's not the 100,000, it's the other 100,000. Lin Zongheng spent 400,000 to buy 2 legs. Unfortunately, he went to the wrong person. The 100,000 he paid in advance ended up in my pocket. Anyway, it was all for nothing. Just spend it. I'm still a little uneasy about keeping it in my hands. My mother said, you can't accept ill-gotten gains. If what happened today didn't happen, wouldn't you just accept it?" Yan Qingqing was pressing, but Han Qian continued to shake his head. "No, let Suliang pick up girls, or let Jianwan buy games and play games. Anyway, I don't want it. If I want the money, I can just earn it myself. He does have the next way to make money. When the mall opens, he will borrow money and think of ways to prepare himself to rent a few good locations or even buy a few good shops, and then sell or transfer them at a higher price. One product can earn 10,000, and 10 shops can earn 100,000. What if a shop makes 20,000? You will definitely not lose money if you lose money." Han Qian is confident in his plan. When Han Qian was about to continue the game, Ji Jing choked and spoke. "Han Qian, I will pay you back the money." Han Qian was concentrating on playing games and replied casually. "Just pay with flesh." As a result, 3 high-heeled shoes flew over, and Yan Qingqing and Yang Ian's hands began to roam around the soft parts of Han Qian's body, and finally Han Qian ran away. Can't afford to offend, can't afford to offend. You can't hit even if you want to, and you don't dare to scold even if you scold. Then Han Qian went to the Human Resources Department to find Jianwan. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Song Jing carried Han Qian and Jianwan by their back collars and came to Mr. Yan's office. "Mr. Yan, you can either remove these 2 people from the Human Resources Department, or I will resign. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, A Huan. Chapter 114. Then Jianwan and Han Qian played games in Yan Qingqing's office all afternoon. Yan Qingqing was busy out and had no time to deal with these 2 special beings. One was the director's niece, and the other was her greatest hero and think tank. Just play for a while. Their efforts will be needed in the future. Although Yan Qingqing acts like a tool all day long, she has her own ambitions, but now is not the time. When they got off work, the two guys still couldn't clear the level. Qianwan invited Han Qian to her house to continue playing. By the way, her aunt was also very interested in Han Qian. Han Qian looked at Qianwan with a look of horror on his face, with a hint of fear in his eyes. Fox asked, "What did you say to your aunt?" "I've said everything I can. My aunt and I have no secrets. Your 2-day plan and the 130,000 yuan from Tu Xiao." "Huh? No, who told you that I wanted 130,000? Yang Jia." As soon as he guessed that it was this little gossip, Han Qian got up and ran out the door. When he went out, Yang Jia was packing her things. When she saw Han Qian's fierce look, she ran away. Before Han Qian could say anything, she had already ran away for more than 10 meters. Han Qian pointed at Yang Jia and roared, "When I catch you, I'll sew your mouth shut." "Luan luo luo. Brother Qian, I'm looking for your weakness. You'd better be careful." Yang Jia ran away, and Yan Qingqing came back. She looked back at Yang Jia step by step, and asked Han Qian suspiciously what happened. Han Qian probably told Yan Qingqing, and Yan Qingqing's eyebrows were filled with joy after hearing this. Han Qian is simply her biggest lucky star. "Go. Why don't you go? Han Qian, don't you know how to cook well? Let's go. I will take you to buy ingredients. You call Wen Juiying and tell her that you won't be going back tonight." Han Qian looked at Yan Qingqing doubtfully and said softly, "Are you going to? I'm worried that you, the playboy, will bring disaster to Qianwan." Han Qian, have you never been in love? Do you not have a woman you like?" "Yes, I really like my mother. She is the female bodhisattva in my heart." "What about the girl? Why do you like that stuff? Why don't you just concentrate on making money?" Question: Who has the best head in the glory group? Han Qian will definitely be ranked first. Ask again, which man in glory is the straightest and most upright? Han Qian is firmly at the top of the list. Yan Qingqing stretched out her hands to pinch Han Qian's head. "Face, look at this guy seriously. Why are you not enlightened at all? Doesn't he know that what he takes for granted will make girls think a lot? Not to mention a bad guy, he is so handsome. Even if he is handsome, his brain is faster than that hamster's cage, but he has no emotional intelligence for girls, or Han Qian has no such thoughts for girls. This guy is really simply cute. Is it simple or just stupid?" When he went downstairs, Han Qian still sent a text message to Nuan. Within a minute, Nuan's text message came back, telling Han Qian that she was having a company dinner tonight, and the location was sent to Han Qian, and he would pick her up around 9 o'clock. Good. Another word. Be concise and to the point. How about Han Qian being a straight man? Hearing that Yan Qingqing was also going, Qianwan was still happy and threw the car keys to Han Qian. She went to sit in Yan Qingqing's Raptor. She said that being a Raptor felt like being a locomotive. When Han Qian got into the McLaren while super running, he felt like he was sitting in a pit. Was this too low? Yan Qingqing had already left for 5 minutes, and Han Qian's car was still parked. He had to call Qianwan and asked with a hint of tears. "Big money, how do you start this car?" "I don't know how." Puff. Then Qianwan and Yan Qingqing's wanton ridicule came from the other side of the phone. Han Qian hung up the phone and called Wen Nuan. "Hey, let me ask you something, where is the start button of the McLaren supercar? I'm confused right now." Nuan also laughed after hearing this, but her smile was very gentle. "Look to see if there is one near the center console. Hey. Ask Lao Wen for one. If he doesn't buy it for me, he will definitely buy it for you. Wait a minute. Who's McLaren and what kid are you hooking up with? Are you a girl? Can Han Qian win over your good-natured heart?" Han Qian scratched his head and looked around, and finally saw the start button where the handbrake would normally be. Then he started looking for the handbrake. Han Qian was even more anxious. He was really about to cry. Nuan Nuan, where is the handbrake? Electronic handbrake. Forget it, you are so stupid. My sister will get you one tomorrow. Brother Qian, can you be a little bit more like a country bumpkin? This thing is not a question of whether it is cheap or not. Cars cost 2 to 3 million or more than 4 million. I think there are times when they run on the road. The car is a big money car. The last time I ate, I was by your side. The one you feel has a good impression. I want to cry even more when I mention this. Her aunt wants to see me, I have to drive, see you in the evening. Han Qian really didn't dare to chat anymore. Firstly, he was unfamiliar with driving this car, and secondly, he didn't dare to drive it. Then there was a yellow supercar speeding along at a speed of 30 miles. Han Qian was concentrating on it. He was crying while driving. Han Qian didn't cry after being beaten. He didn't cry when his mother was critically ill in the hospital. Crying because he knew he could solve it, but he really couldn't solve the car now. While waiting for a traffic light, a Land Rover parked next to him, and then Han Qian heard something. What the hell, is it a man? I thought it was a woman, driving so slowly. It was almost 7 o'clock when Han Qian drove to the small street stall where he last ate. Yan Qingqing laughed at Han Qian mercilessly. Han Qian didn't say a word because he couldn't find a reason to refute. He still felt the warm Alfa Romeo is more suitable for ordinary people, and Sister Yang's Bora is also suitable. He can also try to drive Yan Qingqing's Raptor, but this is the only McLaren. No, no. Maybe I won't have this fate in this life. Qian Ling was not enthusiastic, which was what Han Qian and Yan Qingqing expected. The most important thing was that Han Qian had a bit of panic in his eyes when Qian Ling saw the ingredients in his hand. She can't cook. Big money. She didn't look like she knew how to cook. Then Han Qian laid his eyes on Yan Qingqing, and she became embarrassed. The straight man said without thinking. How do you usually eat? Qian Wan giggled. Take out. Yan Qingqing was a little embarrassed. Eat out and then go home. Qian Ling seemed more generous. The restaurant downstairs delivers it every day. When a proletarian asked about capitalism, he was destined to be hit. Then Han Qian went to the kitchen. Yan Qingqing had a long memory and didn't buy a single seafood. I don't know if it was Qian Wan who reminded her or her. Long memory. Han Qian took a deep breath and put on his apron, then walked from the kitchen to the dining room, and then asked the 3 women in the living room. Are you hungry or not? If you are not hungry, prepare more. If you are hungry, I will make it simple, but I can only say that it is home-cooked food. Qian Wan and Yan Qingqing said they were not hungry at the same time. As the elder, Qian Ling just told Han Qian not to be too busy. The ingredients are very rich, and basically everything Han Qian can think of is available. From the food shopping, it can be seen that these 2 women don't know how to cook. They just bought everything they can. Since there are many women, Han Qian will be biased towards women. A little. The food is really divided between men and women. He skillfully classified the vegetables, then started cutting the side dishes and preparing the ingredients. Han Qian looked at a few potatoes. He took a deep breath, peeled, sliced, and shredded, listening to the rhythmic chopping sound in the kitchen. Qian Wan couldn't stand it anymore at first, so she stood up and secretly watched Han Qian cooking. Qian Wan lay outside the door with her little head exposed. The man was really handsome when cooking. Like her brother, he was very attentive when cooking. After discovering that Han Qian would rinse the cutting board every time after cutting vegetables, Qian Wan turned around. Waving to Yan Qingqing, who was also helpless, the 2 women peeked at Han Qian cooking together. Drain the shredded potatoes and put them aside. Han Qian is holding the vermicelli in his left hand and holding his chin with his right hand. He seems to be thinking about what to do. After a while, he has an idea and starts to get busy. Qianling looks at the two little girls looking at them seriously, and also I couldn't help but be curious and wanted to see if this young man could cook. She didn't need to be sneaky, she just stood outside the kitchen and watched Han Qian busy inside. She watched the young man handle the ingredients skillfully and kept talking. Ants that climb trees should like to eat them, right? Mom actually likes to eat them, oops. I forgot about this. Han Qian put the vermicelli in the pot, and then went to handle the shredded potatoes that had been soaked in cold water. He was a little confused for a while. Qianling's eyes were very gentle, and it looked very similar to him. He could also cook when he was here, and he would also chatter. Said the same thing. Mom should like to eat it. Qianling squinted her eyes and smiled. At this time, Qianwan looked at Qianling. Her face was a little lonely and she whispered. Goo, it seems. After so many years, Qianling would be sad, but also relieved. She nodded lightly, then walked into the kitchen, opened the pot and took a look at the stew inside. Han Qian scratched his head in embarrassment. It's not done yet, and it definitely won't look good now. Qianling trembled as she held the lid of the pot. She remembered what the child who had gone to heaven said when he cooked for the first time. Mom, don't look at it yet. It won't look good until you put it on the table. It will definitely not look good in the pot. He should be fine in heaven. Qianling's injuries were not something that ordinary women could bear. Now Han Qian's words were tantamount to uncovering the scars on her heart. Qianling turned her head and looked at Han Qian coldly and said coldly. It's best not to be taught by Qianwan. He sighed after saying that. Keep sitting, I'm not in a hurry. When Qianling walked out of the kitchen, her legs were a little weak. She refused the support of Qianwan and Yan Qingqing and whispered that she was going to take a rest. Han Qian didn't know what he had done wrong and looked at Qianwan with some worry. Sighing and shrugging. I miss my brother, Brother Qian. What you just said was what my brother said to my aunt. It was in this kitchen, the scene just now, you. Han Qian was holding a bowl of shredded potatoes and was determined to give up. Why was he so arrogant when he had nothing to do? When Qianling returned to the room, she sat beside the bed, took the photo on the table and held it in her arms. Mom misses you so much. As for the 3,000-word chapter, don't say I'm short. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 115. All three people in the kitchen heard Qianling's cry. They couldn't experience Qianling's pain of losing her son and husband. This time Han Qian didn't say a word and prepared dinner seriously. His mood was also very depressed. Han Qian was an easy person. People whose mood is affected by the outside world. Qianling sat in the host's seat, with Qianwan on the left, then Yan Qingqing, and Han Qian brought the dishes to the table one by one. Chinese cabbage skewered meatballs, improvised meatballs. Stir-fried green beans, shredded king oyster mushrooms, and egg-wrapped tofu. Sliced pork, stir-fried pork, and three delicacies, sweet and sour pork ribs, ants climbing the tree. Cold shredded potatoes, sweet and sour jelly. 3 vegetarian dishes, 4 meat dishes, 1 soup, and 2 cold dishes. Han Qian was not in a hurry to sit down. He placed 4 bowls of rice on the table, handed chopsticks to the 3 of them, and finally took a glass of water before sitting down. Han Qian was very hungry, but he never moved his chopsticks, waiting quietly for the master to move his chopsticks first. Qianling looked at the food on the table in a daze and said softly. Han Qian, have you studied? Han Qian chuckled and shook his head. No, I'm just more interested in cooking. To be honest, I was deceived by a sentence, saying that men who cook are very handsome, so. As soon as I entered the kitchen, it was as deep as the sea, and there was nothing I could do. I married Wen Nuan. She can't cook. Qianling picked up a piece of meat with her chopsticks and put it in Qianwan's bowl. Then she gave a piece of apricot abalone to Yan Qingqing. This surprised Yan Qingqing. She held the bowl with both hands and took it. Qianling knocked it with her chopsticks. Knocking on the edge of Yan Qingqing's bowl, she said softly, "Not so polite." Then he put a piece of ribs in Han Qian's bowl. Without thinking, Han Qian stretched out his hand, pinched the ribs and threw it into his mouth. He smiled innocently. His childlike behavior also made Qianling laugh and said with a smile, "Naughty. Do you understand why a gentleman is far away from the kitchen?" Han Qian nodded. "You know, cooking is a job for women and villains." It was Mencius who reminded their monarchs not to behave like women. Times have changed. Men and women have equal status. Men have good physical strength, but they are tired from doing some work. Not bad. Besides, how can children from rural areas be so particular? You are eloquent, just like my son. I also said this to him, and he also taught me a lot of truth. Now I can confirm that this girl Wan Wan didn't teach you. Let's eat, busy. Been here for more than an hour, are you hungry? I'm very hungry. Han Qian lowered his head and started to pick up the rice. Slowly, Qianling discovered that Han Qian only picked up the 2 dishes closest to him and didn't pick up the dishes that were far away. Qianling stood up and changed the positions of the shredded potatoes and pork slices. Han Qian ate like a wolf, as if he hadn't eaten in a long time, but his worthless look made Qianling feel good. Every time he served Han Qian some food, he would raise his head, squint, and smile. Then he lowered his head and ate them all. Qianwan and Yan Qingqing on the side were really envious of Han Qian. Director Qian didn't eat much from the beginning of the meal, and kept picking up food for this guy. Yan Qingqing was about to remind Han Qian, but was frightened by Qianling's cold eyes. Return. Qianling is willing. She doesn't like those young people who flatter her and say nice things to her. At her age and position, she has seen all kinds of people, and she can tell what the other person is coming for from simple exchanges and actions. But she didn't find any benefit from Han Qian. It was she who asked him to come to her home, and he came and cooked a table full of food. He didn't try to be pretentious or deliberately gentle, just eating was just eating. This kid is a bargain and he's just hungry. He just wants to eat. Qianling likes this feeling very much. Looking at Han Qian, he felt like he was seeing Qian Huan. Qianling's husband's surname was also Qian, and his eldest son was called Qian Huan. The child who died without making a sound was going to be named Qianju, a name suitable for both boys and girls. Pity. Backfired. After Han Qian ate 3 large bowls of rice, he really couldn't eat any more. Seeing the pain on Han Qian's face, Qianling gave up on serving him food, narrowed her eyes and laughed softly. Han Qian, you and Xiao Huan are very similar in personality and conversation, but you are a little smaller in stature. He is very tall and looks good. My son must be the most handsome. Han Qian grinned. My mom also said I'm handsome, he. But there's nothing I can do about my height. How about I put on a pair of high heels tomorrow? Snapped. Qianling slapped Han Qian on the shoulder and cursed with a smile. Boys should be more masculine. Don't be feminine. Wash the dishes and digest. Okay. I have to say that Han Qian's character is really attractive. He is obedient in front of his elders and knows what to say and what not to say. Qianling also has a good appetite today. She didn't eat much rice, but she ate plenty of vegetables. After the meal, Qianwan lay on the sofa, stroking her bulging belly, and whispered that next time she must be hungry for a whole day before eating the food cooked by brother Qian. Yan Qingqing skillfully demonstrated her tea skills, and this woman knew a lot. It's just that this Da Hongbao really has no taste in Han Jian's mouth. Han Jian wanted to smoke a cigarette. When he was in doubt, Jian Ling handed Han Jian a teacup. If you have a craving for cigarettes, don't hold it in. Just treat it as a reward for your cooking tonight. Han Jian didn't go to get the cup, but took out 2 paper towels and put them on the coffee table, then poured a little water on them, and then left. Then you're welcome. Jian Ling curled her lips, held hot tea, and spoke softly. I heard something about you from Jian Wan's mouth. The business of Home Plaza, which is currently being dealt with by everyone at Honor, was built by you in 2 days. To be honest, I don't believe it. No one can do it in 2 days. Come up with a perfect plan. Han Jian smoked a cigarette and said softly. Director Jian, you are right. The plan was just a prototype when it was sent to the high-level meeting. I did not calculate the cost of later construction, as well as trivial matters such as advertising and investment. After saying this, Yan Qingqing gritted her teeth and glared at Han Jian. Jian Ling smiled and raised her hand to touch Yan Qingqing's head, indicating to Han Jian to continue. Han Jian grinned. If I want to sell this project, it will take me half a month to do it in detail. But if I can do it for the company, 2 days is enough. In fact, I spent 1 night in the hospital with my ex-wife during these 2 days. I walked around the streets all morning, because this is a planning project for the entire company. It is like an ancient court, where civil servants talk and military generals break their legs. I think it is quite appropriate to say this. If a civil official starts talking, a military general will lose his legs. The more Yan Qingqing thought about it, the more something was wrong. After all, the civil servant was Han Jian, and the military commander was her, Yan Qingqing. I won't call him General Han anymore. Jian Ling curled her lips and smiled. Have you known Tu Xiao or Guan Yunbiao before? Mentioning these 2 people, Han Jian scratched his head and said awkwardly. I don't know. Actually, it's a coincidence. My landlord's son is in love with Tu Xiao's daughter. Because of some things, my nephew, who can't fight with a 7-pole, needs a male elder to go to school to encourage him. Then I went there enthusiastically and got to know Tu Kun. Oh. I even had a fight with Guan Yunbiao in the alley outside the school. I beat him to the ground and he couldn't get up. After that, Guan Yunbiao sold it to me because he was the eldest daughter of his family. A good person is considered a human being. Oh. I'm a little curious about what Guan Yunbiao can sell you. Lin Zongheng spent 400,000 yuan to buy my pair of legs and gave him a 100,000 yuan advance payment. Yan Qingqing only found out about this news in the afternoon. She was relatively calm, but Jian Wan, who was lying on the sofa, suddenly stood up and asked in a low voice if it was because of Sister Nuan. Han Jian smiled bitterly and nodded. We had some agreements with Wen Nuan. We were forced to do so back then, and then it became what it is now. After that, Tu Xiao had to rush to transform. His first choice was Gao Jixian, but later I was involved in it for some reasons. Han Jian honestly told his story. Jian Ling put down her teacup and looked at Han Jian carefully. After a long time, she frowned and smiled bitterly. I don't know whether you are lucky or not, so you want to intervene in the fight between Qingqing and Gao Jingxing? Or maybe you have helped Qingqing consolidate his position in glory? Have you ever thought that your appearance will affect the future of glory? Has there been a change? Han Jian shook his head in confusion. I never thought about it. I need money. Yan can always give me money. I help her with things. She is the first person who gives me the most trust. I can't make 2 cents without making a mistake. Second master, I understand. Jian Ling smiled again. Then you become a bad person today and throw away 100,000 yuan in one breath? Han Qian, I find that I can't understand you. If you say you are smart, you are really smart, but if you say you are stupid, you are really stupid. Only money is the most real, everything else is a variable. This time Han Qian also smiled. You can make money if you lose money, but if you don't do some things, you will regret it for the rest of your life and you won't be able to make up for it. In my heart, money is not the most important thing, because I believe in my brain and I can make money, so I don't want to regret it. Including almost going to jail that year. This sentence was another bomb, but Han Qian was not affected at all. He was not angry or inferior at all because he was exposed. He just scratched his head and said in embarrassment, "Director Qian, you were not young at that time. Why did you poke my scar?" Boom. Qian Ling slammed her cup on the table and said angrily, "You poked me all night and I can still let you go? Get out. I'm too lazy to look at you." "Oh. Then Mr. Yan will give it to me." Ching Ching stays. "I have something to say. Wan Wan, give him your car keys and get out of here. Looking at you reminds me of Qian Huan and makes me feel so upset." Han Qian took the car keys in a panic, and when he stood up, he took away the paper towel on the table to flick the cigarette ashes. When he walked to the door, Qian Ling suddenly said, "Come over and cook when you have nothing to do. It tastes good." Han Qian turned around and grinned stupidly. "Can I keep the food?" "Get out." "Okay." After going downstairs, Han Qian felt the evening breeze. He couldn't figure out what Qian Ling's purpose was for seeing him tonight. When he walked to the McLaren, Han Qian wanted to cry. He wanted to drive this tuxing soon again. Ah! I want to see monthly passes. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 116. The purpose of the dinner was for the conservative parties who supported the Lin family to find a reason to clean up Lin Zongheng's reputation. They tried their best to please, and by the way, they also brought people from the Wen family. It was hard to find a reason to refuse everyone. The hecklers asked Vice President Wen and Mr. Lin to sit together. As a member of the Wen family similar to the Kadama party, they were not willing to let Vice President Wen and Lin Zong sit together. As a newly promoted member of the Kadama party, Li Yang opened his mouth to stop the rude heckles of the Conservative Party under the gentle warning of the seniors. The words that Mr. Wen was married silenced everyone present. Wen Nuan breathed a sigh of relief, nodded to everyone apologetically, and then sat down next to Li Yang. Everyone on the left and right were members of the Kadama party. Member and a supporter of the Wen family. After a party, Wen Nuan was persuaded to have a few drinks. She was already a little confused because of the alcohol. Lin Zongheng wanted to come over several times but was blocked by members of the Kadama party, half for Wen Nuan and half for themselves. If Vice President Wen and Lin Zongheng get together, then the company will belong to the Lin family alone, and they will be the ones to be dealt with. After the party ended, Wen Nuan walked out of the hotel with the support of two elder supporters. After seeing the wind, Wen Nuan's stomach turned and he couldn't help but vomited on the roadside. Even though she was the goddess in everyone's hearts, she looked a little too embarrassed when she was vomiting. She was very tall and her filth had already splashed on her trousers. Suddenly she felt warm and patted twice on her back, and she quickly stood up and took a step forward. Lin Zongheng handed Nuan a handkerchief in a gentlemanly manner. Nuan wiped his mouth with his sleeve carelessly and shook his head gently. The distance between her and Lin Zongheng is getting farther and farther now. Lin Zongheng's expression did not change at all. There were many people looking at him now. Even if he was unhappy, he had to pretend not to be affected and said softly, "Xiao Nuan, you have drunk so much, let me take you back. We have known Xiao Nuan for 20 years, are you afraid that Brother Lin will be rude to you?" When these words were said, the faces of Kadama party members became unsightly, especially the last sentence. If Vice President Wen refused, it would be clear that he did not believe Lin Zongheng, but if he agreed, problems might arise. Nuan took a deep breath and shook his head slightly. Being rejected again, Lin Zongheng felt that his self-esteem was hurt. He walked forward with a smile, but he was already getting angry. When had he ever been so patient with a woman? The only one who is warm. Xiao Nuan, if nothing else happens, we should have been married, and maybe the children have been born. I don't know what happened in the past 3 years. I admit that I made many mistakes abroad, and I will change my past mistakes. Let's make peace, okay? Lin Zongheng's face was full of self-blame when he said he had made a mistake, and his eyes were full of sighs and expectations when he asked for reconciliation. I have to say that Lin Zongheng's acting skills are really good, very good. Maybe he really liked Wen when he was thinking about the 17 shares in Wen's hands, but his superb acting skills did not impress Wen. It can also be said that Lin Zongheng was not in Wen's mind at all now. She heard what he said. I didn't feel anything in my heart, I just felt that he was very wordy. Shouldn't a man speak cleanly? Like Han Qian. Although he was a gentleman on the surface, he was asking aggressive questions at this time. Wen Nuan was drunk and she also understood the meaning of Lin Zongheng's words. Didn't she just want everyone in the company to watch, so she couldn't make him look bad and give him a step up? But when has our warm sister ever considered for others? Apart from being divorced by Han Qian, no one can force her to do anything when she grows up. Wen Nuan wiped his mouth and shook his head expressionlessly. Zongheng, we were kids and grew up together. Some say we are childhood sweethearts, some say we are talented and beautiful, but all these are what others say. I have never thought of falling in love with you, I just regard you as my brother. And Li Yang just said, I'm married, I'm sorry. These words completely shattered Lin Zongheng's self-esteem. He was very close to Wen Nuan. Thinking of Wen Nuan's caution just now, after hearing these words, he couldn't help but take a step forward. At this moment, a McLaren the supercar roared over a few hundred meters away at a speed of 120 miles. What speed limits, what violations? Han Qian used a turtle speed of 30 miles to pick up Nuan. When he saw Nuan bent over and vomiting on the roadside, he speeded up. When Nuan took a step back to distance Han Qian suddenly felt relieved, but now Lin versatility is moving forward, warmth is retreating. A kick of the gas. A few hundred meters of road is just a few dazzling moments. The McLaren supercar stopped suddenly beside Wen Nuan, and the door was opened. Han Qian got out of the car, walked around from the front of the car, and hugged Wen Nuan directly in his arms. He looked at Lin Zongheng with cold eyes. Han Qian didn't say anything, just used a cold expression. His eyes looked at the Lin family turtle. Nuan smelled the familiar faint smell of tobacco. She took Han Qian's hand and got into the car. She wanted to take Han Qian away. He knew Han Qian's temper. He would never get angry no matter how much trouble he made at home, but he would get angry if he made trouble outside. He will do it without hesitation. Lin Zongheng? Will anyone who dares to steal money from Tu Xiao be afraid of him? Watching the supercar McLaren leave at a turtle speed, Lin Zongheng stood there with his hands shaking with anger. From the moment Han Qian appeared to the time he left, his warm eyes were always on him. Lin Zongheng turned around and punched the tree. Grass. Lin Zongheng, who never used foul language, exploded. From the look in Han Qian's eyes, he knew that paying for murder had failed. The members of the Kadama party gathered together to discuss who this young man suddenly appeared, his short hair in a supercar, his haste when he got out of the car, and his cold eyes when he looked at Mr. Lin. Who is this dandy young master? Lin Zongheng clenched his fists, blood dripping between his fingers and falling to the ground. Sitting in the co-pilot of the supercar, Wen Nuan was sober and excited. When she saw Han Qian, She put down all her defenses. Shall I drive it? I've never driven a McLaren supercar. This kind of car needs to be driven very fast. It feels like you're pushing your back. Our little whites and little reds can't feel that way. She was still drunk. Han Qian held the steering wheel with both hands and spoke nervously. Don't talk nonsense, are you crazy for drunk driving? When I picked you up just now, I felt that the speed was too fast and I couldn't control it. It's okay. Just arrest her and let my uncle come and get me. This car is only 4 million. If it crashes, I'll just pay her one car. Huh. How about the two of us go to defraud Lao Wen? Let him give it to us. Buy one. Why did you buy this? By the way, how long have you left the Alpha in the repair shop? Why don't you go and take a look? Han Qian, I want to vomit. After saying this, Wen Wen started retching. Han Qian quickly stopped the car and opened the door to help Wen Wen out. She really drank too much and squatted on the side of the road to vomit. Han Qian was holding water in his left hand and a tissue in his right hand and said feebly. I originally wanted to ask you something, but seeing you look like such a drunk bear, huh? Damn it! Halfway through Han Qian's words, he picked up Wen Wen who was squatting on the roadside and stuffed it inside. Wen Wen didn't resist at all. He was about to ask Han Qian what was wrong, but then something as big as a soybean hit the windshield. In just a few seconds, Han Qian's clothes were already wet when he got in the car. He took off his sportswear, revealing his upper body, which was not fair. The muscles on Han Qian's body continued to develop, and he had no trace of fat. Why do you do this so easily? Hey! After saying this, Wen Nuan showed no reaction. When she turned her head, she found Wen Nuan's bright eyes staring at her. Han Qian clearly saw Wen Nuan's throat moving. This frightened Han Qian. He crossed his arms and pulled neck yelled. You want to eat people? Wen Nuan nodded vigorously, then grabbed Han Qian's arm with both hands, and said aggrievedly. Brother Qian, I'm hungry. You have to hold it back, you must hold it back. I'll make delicious food for you when you get home, eh? Why are you biting me? Go away, are you a dog? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Huan. Chapter 117. Fortunately, the car was parked in the underground garage. Han Qian carried Wen Nuan who was already asleep on his back upstairs. He placed Nuan Wen next to the bed and prepared water. Han Qian was not in a hurry to rest. He sat on the edge of the bed and looked at Wen Wen who was sleeping. Han Qian curiously opened his warm mouth. What kind of mouth is this? Thinking of Nuan rejecting Lin Zongheng, Han Qian couldn't help but smile. He stood up and picked up the clothes he had just taken off from Nuan and went to the bathroom. When Han Qian closed the door, Nuan was locked in the quilt and giggled. She was wearing the clothes she was wearing now. 2 pieces of underwear, but within 2 seconds, only one was left. In the bathroom, Han Qian took a cold shower. The biting coldness calmed him down. He stuffed the clothes that needed to be washed into the washing machine, walked to the window of the living room wearing a pair of shorts, opened the window and lit a cigarette. The rain was heavy, accompanied by lightning and thunder. Fortunately, Wen Nuan was not afraid of such things. She could not hear the gongs and drums when she fell asleep. The rainy day calmed down Han Qian's manic and restless heart, and the nicotine entering his body made him more sober. What is Qian Ling's purpose today? This question has been echoing in Han Qian's mind. She investigated his details in advance, including the time when he was about to be imprisoned, but she did not find out what Han Qian did with the money, nor did she find out what he Nuan did. Reason for getting married. Warn. Could it be that the recent actions have caused dissatisfaction on the board of directors? The chance of Gao Jingchen going to Lushenga to complain is higher than 60%, or it may be that he is not complaining, but wants to attract attention to him. Han Qian suddenly remembered Tu Xiao's words, Lushenga is a mysterious guy, he can't do anything, a real man needs to find other ways to vent. Han Qian probably understood it from what he knew now. This guy loves to play God. Gao Xingchen wanted to use Lushenga's hand to eliminate himself in glory? But what does this have to do with Jianling? Yan Qingqing and Gao Jingchen are both Lushenga's people, right? Han Qian didn't dare to think about it anymore. His mind was smart and his methods were brilliant. Things at that level were not something he could participate in. Perhaps Gao Fulai and Yan Qingqing could only be used as pawns that could be sacrificed at any time. Same earth, different world. Standing on a mountain peak allows you to see farther, but this mountain requires money to accumulate. He returned to the coffee table and put out his cigarette butts. At this time, Nuan came downstairs in pajamas, tilted his head and looked at Han Qian and asked, "Are you worried?" Han Qian smiled and nodded. He had no reason to hide anything from Wen Nuan. Wen Nuan turned back upstairs and took out a set of pajamas from Han Qian's room and handed them to Han Qian. Han Qian put on his pajamas and said softly, "Are you hungry? What do you want to eat?" Nuan touched his flat belly. "I want to eat noodles, but don't you have any at home? It seems like there's some flour. I can't sleep anyway. Just wait here. I want to watch you cook. Did you know that you are very charming when you cook? Is it a stomach upset?" Han Qian walked into the kitchen with a smile. He doesn't make noodles very often, but he can make noodles. This is relatively simple. If he doesn't have a noodle machine at home, he just makes this. It didn't take long for Han Qian to make 2 bowls of noodles. Beef noodles. I also fried some fried skewers. Han Qian added some vinegar to the noodles. Seeing this, Wen also snatched the vinegar bottle away. Wen took a small sip of the sour noodle soup and instantly felt warm in her chest and stomach. She was really hungry. After a while, she felt warm. The bowl of noodles was wiped out, and I was half lying on the sofa wishing to be a fat house. Then I turned on the TV and paid to watch a Japanese cartoon by Xiaomi, a girl with sex. When I looked at it, Xiaomi was a goddess with good grades, aloof, and beautiful in school. When she got home, she would turn into a cute version of a villain, lying on her back. In a room full of snacks, I read comics and drank Coke. After watching for a while, Han Qian had just finished washing the dishes, and Nuan Wen suddenly said, "I'm so envious that Xiaomi has a brother. His brother is so kind to her, brother Qian. I want to drink Coke." There is basically no difference between Nuan and Xiaomi, except that one is at work, one is at school, one is an elder brother, and the other is an ex-husband, Han Qian said with a smile. "I don't have any at home. Let me see if there is any yogurt." Han Qian lost his composure the moment he opened the refrigerator. The 2 layers inside were filled with drinks of all kinds. He remembered the night when he and Wen went to buy ice cream, and he smiled and took out 2 bottles of Coke and put them on the coffee table. He then raised his warm legs and sat down. Nuan turned over, put his legs on Han Qian's legs, took a sip of Coke while lying down, and tapped Han Qian's legs with his white feet. "Han Qian, what trouble have you encountered? Talk to your sister." Han Qian told Nuan what happened today. When he mentioned Yan Qingqing, Nuan snorted and lightly kicked Han Qian's shoulder. Then he continued to watch the anime. After about 10 minutes, Nuan spoke. "Actually, it's very simple. Lushenga knows about your existence. If he is interested in you, he will definitely find a way to play a game with you. This guy is really who you say he is. Of course, I also heard that he said, Lu Shenga is attacking you, and Qian Ling wants to win you over. Although this woman does not have many shares in glory, no one can be sure that she will mainly want to win over you in the future, not you, but Yan Qingqing. Whether Yan Qingqing is worth being won over depends on how much bargaining chip she has. What a coincidence. Yan Qingqing's biggest bargaining chip now is you, so it doesn't really matter. Han Qian didn't quite understand. According to Nuan, this matter was so simple, but why couldn't he think of it? Looking at Han Qian's expression, Nuan knew what he was thinking and curled his lips. You have only been in this circle for a few days. If it is a food chain, you are still at the bottom of the herbivore, and my sister has already reached the status of a hunter. You don't think that these are normal? You really have to talk to Lao Wen about this. Study it? Han Qian nodded softly. When Nuan got up from the sofa, turned off the TV, and shouted to go upstairs to sleep. When Han Qian turned off the light and went upstairs, he found Wen Nuan already lying in his room. Han Qian stood at the door and said helplessly, "Your aunt should have left, right? If you still sleep here, won't you be afraid of my bestiality coming out at night?" Pooh. Wen Nuan was really not afraid. In the past 3 years of getting along with her, she had already become very familiar with Han Qian. She sat up wrapped in a quilt and smiled at Han Qian. "Han Qian, I'm not wearing anything. If you don't believe me, look at it." Wen Nuan suddenly opened the quilt. Han Qian looked at Wen Nuan like a fool. He sighed, took off his shoes and went to bed, got into the bed and said scornfully, "I know you like a farmer knows shit." "Oh. Han Qian, if you can fall asleep tonight, it will be all my fault." Nuan. 18 Dragon subduing palms. Watch the moves. Before Nuan could make a move, Han Qian suddenly turned around and rolled Nuan into a roll with a quilt, then put Nuan on his shoulders and sent her back to his room, talking as he walked. A runner who runs 100 meters for 1 minute, you can get rid of the insect. When Nuan lay on Han Qian's shoulder and whispered, "I'll surrender you." Result. When Han Qian got up to drink water in the middle of the night, he found a pair of big eyes staring at him. Han Qian was so frightened that he locked himself in the corner with his quilt and said angrily, Nuan, you are sick. I said, I am guilty of letting you sleep tonight, but you call me a piece of shit. Han Qian, just die. I really don't know where Nuan got so much energy to play. Han Qian really didn't sleep well that night. When he opened his eyes in the morning, it was still raining outside. Han Qian lay down directly and put his hands on the man sleeping next to him. With warmth in my arms, I have to find some interest to get back. Go after you wake up. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 118. Early in the morning, the lobby on the first floor of Honor Group was in a mess. It had been raining all night and it had no intention of stopping. Lu Zhuolong put away his umbrella and lamented the autumn rain and the cold. Autumn has come. Then he saw Suliang being driven to work by a little girl. Lu Zhuolong sighed again that it was great to be young. If he were 10 years younger, unmarried, and single, Na Lanlan might agree to be his daughter. Friends. But the fact is that Yang Lan still won't agree. Hey, where's Mr. Lu looking at the rain scene? I'm quite relaxed and elegant today. I haven't seen you for 2 days and I miss you so much. Come and give me a hug. Lu Zhuolong rejected Suliang's enthusiasm with a look of disgust. He always felt that there was something wrong with Suliang's sexual orientation. He didn't like men, but was a man-to-man, hanging out with Han Qian all day long. The female colleagues who clocked in at the same time couldn't help but sigh when they heard that Suliang wanted to hug Deputy Director Lu of the General Affairs Department. Why? Why do handsome guys like men? Not far away, little Yang Jia looked at Suliang excitedly, as if she really wanted the 2 grown men to hug her. Not long after, Li Dongsheng came too, scolding the weather as he walked, and he was so annoyed. Yang Lan hurriedly came behind him. There are more and more people at the entrance of Glory, especially people from the general department. They are not in a hurry to go upstairs, as if they are waiting for something. At 8:50, Yan Qingqing and Qianwan arrived. Yan Qingqing looked at the group of people standing at the front door and knew that Han Qian hadn't come yet. It was 9 o'clock. Ji Jing's car stopped at the main entrance, and she punched in. She held a small lunch box in her hand, tilted her head and looked at Yang Lan, and said softly, "Lan Lan, is Han Qian here?" Yang Lan covered her forehead and sighed feebly. This action proved that Han Qian was late again today. Ji Jing said oh, and when she was about to go upstairs, Yang Lan suddenly spoke. "Huh? Did you bring breakfast today?" Xiao Baibei was clamoring to go to Grandma's house this morning. "Hey! I was too busy to eat. Let me see what you did." Yang Lan and Ji Jing were very close. She trotted up to Ji Jing and reached out to get the small lunch box. Unexpectedly, Ji Jing took several steps back as if hiding from a man. She coyly said nothing and hid the small lunch box behind him. Seeing this, Yang Lan curled her lips and said disdainfully, "What? Not sisters anymore? Yang Lan, haven't you seen it yet?" She brought it to Han Qian, and it's no surprise that it's dumplings. Yan Qingqing looked at Ji Jing with her arms folded, her eyes full of contempt. Yang Lan was a little belated and tilted her head to think. Ji Jing blushed and turned around and trotted upstairs. Yan Qingqing also took pictures. Clap your hands. Okay, let's go prepare for our own work. Why don't you go to work if he doesn't come? Qianwan, you will also go back to the general department today. As for Sul Yang, your good brother Han Qian wants you to practice in the operations department. Let's all disperse. Why? Sul Yang sighed feebly and went to the operations department dejectedly. Qianwan felt that brother Qian couldn't come to work today. Without Han Qian, he would have lost a lot of fun. Li Dongsheng frowned and took out his mobile phone. His mother called and said she didn't want to go to work today. He felt it was unfair that Han Qian was late or didn't come to work because it was raining. He was just an ordinary employee. How could he just say he wouldn't come? I am the son of a shareholder, and I don't want to go to work. He is like a child, always imitating Han Qian to do things. Li Dongsheng is gone, which is very good news for Qianwan. Seeing this mama's boy makes her annoyed. Qianwan has returned to her place and continues her gaming career. She doesn't like standalone and online games very much. He is her favorite, pretending to be a man in the world and having fun with others. Her ID has not changed for many years. I want to line up with you. Also a problem child. In the operations department, Sul Yang sat uneasily in Ji Jing's office. Ji Jing asked Sul Yang about Han Qian seriously. She asked about Han Qian's hobbies. Sul Yang shook his head in confusion. I don't know what Han Qian likes to do, and then asked what Han Qian likes to eat. Sul Yang knows that he doesn't eat seafood. Afterwards, Sul Yang, whom Ji Jing was inquiring about, didn't know either. In fact, there is no need to ask. Han Qian is a relatively boring person, he really has no interests or hobbies. Finally, Ji Jing asked Sul Yang. Tell me what you know. Sul Yang shook his head in confusion, and then looked at Ji Jing with a painful look on his face. Minister Ji, I have a good relationship with Han Qian, but we are not in love either. Why am I asking about that? Oh, he likes rice, dumplings, and other traditional Chinese food, but he doesn't like fancy foreign stuff. By the way, he's very old-fashioned and straight. Ji Jing already knew what Sul Yang said. She lay weakly on the table, drew circles on the table with one hand, and whispered. He helped me a lot, how should I repay him? I pledge myself to you, Minister G. Go, read all the operations department plans, and then prepare a 10,000-word summary for me. When Suliang walked out of the office, he slapped himself in the face. Isn't this a rude act? Why did he provoke Han Qian to this peach blossom when he had nothing to do? 10,000 words, 10,000 words. Just as I was about to complete this task, someone suddenly came to deliver a message saying that Vice President Gao was looking for me. Suliang's brows furrowed for a moment, and he got up to see Gao Jishi. He was very nervous along the way. When he walked into Vice President Gao's office, Suliang sat on the sofa nervously. From the moment he walked into Gao Jishi's office to the time he left, Suliang always in a dazed state. He was confused when he walked out of the office. Two options. One is to stay in the general department, which may be disbanded at any time. Han Qian also thought of this, so he told Yan Qingqing to let Suliang continue to stay in the operations department to train. The other is to become the deputy director of the public relations department. Promotion. Gao Jingcheng did not make any demands, but said that all the handsome men and beauties of the company gathered in the public relations department. Honor's public relations department is relatively responsible. There are two directors in one department. One is Sun Ya, who is mainly responsible for building relationships with major customers, and the other is responsible for handling negative news about the company. Suliang was not happy. He was struggling with whether to agree to Gao Jingcheng or not. This is an opportunity. If you miss it, you won't know when the next time will be. The current salary in the general department is 4,000, and as a deputy director, the basic salary is 10,000. The public relations department is different from other departments. They have a lot of money. Dinners, travel, and golf course negotiations are just a month for an ordinary employee. You can also get about 20,000 yuan. Of course, the basic salary is still 3,000 yuan plus bonuses and commissions. Most of them depend on your brain. Due to the temptation of money and status, Suliang fell into a battle between heaven and man. Entering the public relations department is equivalent to becoming a high-performance insider. You may regret it if you refuse. Suliang walked downstairs and walked out of the hall, stretched out his hand and felt the cold rain falling on his palm. Then he smiled and cursed to himself. You're going to humming regret it? Hua Luo took out his mobile phone and dialed Han Qian's number. Listening to the confused voice on the phone, Suliang smiled and cursed. Don't sleep, come to the company to have lunch together. I gave up the opportunity to reach the top of my life for you. If I don't see you in an hour, I will tell Mr. Yan that you like her. Suliang, wash your neck and wait for me. After hanging up the phone, Suliang looked at Sun Ya's car and pouted. I regret your grandma's legs. Late update today. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 119. The yellow McLaren came, and the rain became lighter at this time. Han Qian held his suit jacket and ran all the way to the general department to catch Suliang. Suliang smiled when he saw Han Qian, the two guys hanging out in the operations department. We'll discuss our matters later. Minister Ji prepared breakfast for you, but he didn't even let Sister Yang eat it. Ah! Why is she bringing breakfast? Is she afraid that I will starve to death? After listening to Han Qian's words, Suliang felt a headache. He tilted his head and looked at Han Qian seriously, frowning. Do you only have IQ and no EQ in your mind? Qianer, have you ever been in love? Han Qian looked at Suliang with a painful look on his face and curled his lips. What about you? We talk about several things at once, and I'm afraid you'll be exhausted. Huh? You're not still a virgin, are you? The voice of these words was loud. Everyone in the operations department raised their heads and looked at Han Qian curiously. Now Han Qian panicked and pinched Suliang's neck. In the end, he couldn't bring himself to kill this guy and turned around to go to G. Quiet office. Han Qian closed the door and started nagging angrily. Sure, Sul Yang, why do you say everything to the outside world? Aunt G, did you really prepare breakfast for me? Dumplings. Yeah. Ji Jing put the dumplings on the table, then she cupped her chin and drew circles on the table with one hand, looking at Han Qian curiously and asked. Eldest nephew, you are not really still a virgin, are you? Tisk, 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 you are so strange. Han Qian, who was poked in a sore spot, jumped angrily, took the small lunchbox and turned around to leave. His arrogant energy felt like he was running away. When he and Sul Yang walked out of the operations department, the operations department instantly exploded. Han Daxian knows how to be a real virgin. A 25-year-old virgin. Don't girls nowadays know a little bit of shame? How can you say these two words casually? General Han is very traditional. In the cafeteria, I asked the cook aunt to help heat the dumplings. Although Han Qian's reputation in the company was not very good, in the eyes of the aunts in the cafeteria, he was a good boy. He could eat without being picky, so they never saw him wasting food. The mouth is still sweet. Sul Yang seems to be very fond of pasta. Han Qian ordered a fast food. The rice was piled like a hill and the dumplings were placed in the middle of the table to share with Sul Yang. Ji Jing's cooking skills are not bad, I can only say that they are okay. Sul Yang just ate a symbolic dumpling, because Ji Jing came and appeared quietly behind Han Qian. Han Qian lowered his head to eat the rice and said vaguely. What happened this morning that made you call me urgently? Sul Yang raised his head and smiled at Han Qian and winked. Han Qian understood instantly and curled his lips. Is it Aunt Ji or little Yang Xia? After saying this, Han Qian turned around, and Ji Jing suddenly looked a little flustered. She was holding a bottle of yogurt for lunch and said slightly embarrassed. Niece, how does it taste? It feels like a mother. Han Qian originally thought of teasing Ji Jing and refuting the title of nephew, but who would have expected that this woman did not sense Han Qian's malice at all and smiled and narrowed her eyes. Are you going to call me mom from now on? Get out. Seeing that there were only a few dumplings left in the small lunch box, Ji Jing nodded with satisfaction, turned around and walked away humming a tune and walking lightly. Now Sul Yang knew that he could speak, and leaned forward slightly, whispering Road. Qian Vice President Gao came to see me this morning and told me very straightforwardly that I can now leave the General Department and go to the Public Relations Department to be the Deputy Director and Sunya's subordinate. After hearing this, Han Qian raised his head and looked at Sul Yang in disbelief, and asked with a frown on his face. Don't tell me that you refused. Is it a big public relations department or a small public relations department? If it's a big public relations department, there will be a lot of money. Sul Yang shrugged and said casually. It's the public relations department. I was very moved at first. After thinking about it carefully, I found that I couldn't agree. Now that I'm in the general department or the operations department, Vice President Gao can't touch me. I'm protected by President Yan. It sounds nice to go to the public relations department and become the deputy director, but if I am of no use at all, he can kick me out of the company at any time. Although I am not smart, I think I am helping you. Not smart? Who dares to say that Sul Yang is not smart, but what he is good at is exactly the opposite of Han Qian. He knows well about the relationship between interpersonal relationships and interests. If he really leaves the general department, Han Qian will really have a headache. Han Qian smiled naively. Then I won't go, but let me tell you first. We won't have any money to make in a short period of time. We won't be able to make any money until May or June next year. If you don't have any money, tell me. We brothers want to think of ways to. How about blackmailing Li Dongsheng? As soon as these words came out, Han Qian's eyes lit up instantly, and then he waved to Suliang with a hypocritical expression. Don't talk nonsense, we are good citizens, how can we break the law? He, do you want to go back to the general department to play games this afternoon? I heard that Dakian has gone back. Aren't you training in the operations department? That's all for others to hear. After the meal, the two guys went directly upstairs and stood at the corridor window on the 14th floor blowing smoke and mist. The company employees passing by on the 14th floor dared to get angry but dared not speak. Han Daxianer was a violent maniac and often interacted with people outside the company. When it comes to fights, Sudaji fights with people from the company. I heard that he lost 20,000 yuan without having his eyelids pierced, and the one who got beaten was even transferred out of the branch by the company. Can't afford to offend, can't afford to offend. But Yang Lan and Lu Zhuolong still found out about the two of them smoking in the no-smoking area. Others didn't dare to deal with them, but these two did. Yang Lan grabbed Han Qian's ears and gritted his teeth angrily. What a bastard! Next time you don't like going downstairs to smoke, just go to my office and commit crimes here in the face of the wind. Are you really not afraid? Yang Lan really dotes on Han Qian, not just words. As for Suliang, Lu Zhuolong grabbed the back of Destiny's neck, walked to the general department and kicked him in the butt. This is just great. Members of the general department were helpless to lament. The three musketeers are together again. Han Qian consciously did not play games. Suliang applied for a QQ for him, and added Manager Li with Fenghua decoration. Fortunately, Han Qian was not slow in typing. Now that the home plaza plan has been implemented, they can go and advertise with honor. The department has discussed with Quan Daegu in District 8 about hanging advertisements. Manager Li said on the button that the typing was a bit unclear and it was inconvenient for him to answer the phone. Han Qian called OK. Not long after, Suliang's cell phone rang. When the phone was handed to Han Qian shook his head. Whispered. Stop hiding it, it's time to show it off. I won't say thank you anymore. After Suliang finished speaking, he answered the phone and stood up to go out, but Han Qian held his shoulder. He stood up and stood behind Suliang to squeeze his shoulder. Suliang knew clearly what Han Qian meant. His voice was not soft. After a brief chat with Manager Li about advertising, he made a suggestion to Manager Li. Brother Li, you are very knowledgeable about decoration materials. Fenghua is also the leader in the decoration industry in our city. Our Minister Han has mentioned this many times. What we want to ask here is whether Manager Li has time. If it is convenient, please help us spread the knowledge about brands entering shopping malls. Of course, as long as it is recommended by Manager Li, we will definitely trust it. Suliang's words attracted the attention of the general department. Li Zhuolong got up and walked outside Yang Ian's office, knocked on the door, and motioned for Yang Lan to come out and listen. Manager Li was silent for a few seconds on the phone, and then he spoke eloquently to Suliang about decoration knowledge and brands. Suliang didn't listen at all. He pointed at the motorcycle beauty on the computer and asked Han Qian if she looked good. Manager Li didn't listen. His excitement can be heard in his voice. Now there is a benefit in front of him, he can check into the Honor Home Plaza in advance. Maybe others still don't understand how he could not see such a bright future after working in this industry for more than 10 years. After Manager Li said this, Suliang smiled. Manager Li still knows more. I am embarrassed to say that I understand decoration in front of you. The brand is one of them. Another point is that Honor Home Plaza is our local company. It cannot be said that it only makes money from our citizens. We Yang. Suliang saw Yang Lan nodded to him, and Suliang continued. Our secretary Yang has mentioned that we will bring our city's home furnishing manufacturers to get rich together. Of course, we have to trouble Manager Li for this. Manager Li. I can't guarantee anything else. I can only guarantee that you, the review officer, will be successful in a short time. I don't have time to eat at home, so you can just choose the location of the Fenghua advertisement. We don't talk about two families. Brother Su wants me to thank Secretary Yang and Minister Han. Let's go out and get together at a time to celebrate our happy cooperation. There's just one more thing. You say. Have you spoken to the 8th District's officials? Fenghua went to them rashly. I'm worried about the safety of our employees. Ha 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 ha, don't worry, Manager Li. Brother Guan from District 8 has a very good relationship with our Minister Han. Boss Tu's precious daughter wants to call our minister uncle, so don't worry. This makes me feel relieved. Suliang hung up the phone directly. The initiative was now in their hands. Giving Fenghua a chance was just to take advantage of Fenghua Decoration's influence in the decoration and building materials market. The Chinese people are most proficient in following the trend, and Fenghua is one of the employees of honor. Head leader. Han Qian smiled and patted Suliang's shoulder and said with a smile. We agreed to fail the class together, but you secretly made up the classes. You are really working hard in the operations department. Sister Yang, I think Suliang is a talent. Do you want to send him to the business department to practice for 2 days? Yang Lan was thoughtful. Suliang turned to look at Han Qian with a sad and angry expression, and said angrily. Qian, you're trying to trick me. But, I'm willing to go. Han Qian smiled, and so did Yang Lan. Children are not stupid. Vote, tip, and subscribe. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 120. Suliang left the operations department that day, and went to Qin Shui's business department without covering his butt in the general department. At that time, Qin Shui was panicking when he saw the two biggest culprits of the company in the office. Receive. Do you dare not accept it? Mr. Yan's documents are here. Let Suliang come to the business department to study for a while. Just come to the sales department after studying in the operations department. Mr. Yan obviously wanted to cultivate the Suliang. Even with the support of Vice President Gao, he still didn't dare to refuse such a small thing. Now Han Qian's intention is obvious. It made Suliang become Yan Qingqing's person, let everyone in the company know that Suliang was the target of Mr. Yan's training, and made Gao Xing give up on giving Suliang shoes. Back in the general department, Yang Lan and Lu Zhulong took Han Qian directly into the office and looked at Han Qian one after another. Lu Zhulong blocked the door and was ready to knock Han Qian down at any time. There was a small stick in it. Han Qian frowned and smiled when he saw this. Sister Yang, Brother Lu, what are you two doing? Are you lynching me? I didn't make any mistakes today. Lan, did you hear? Did you see? He didn't even know that he had made a mistake. It is unforgivable and unforgivable. Lu Zhulong was so angry that he almost exploded. Han Qian scratched his head in confusion. At this moment, he found that the cuties from the general department were listening through the door. Han Qian tried hard to think, and after a long time he frowned and said, I really didn't make any mistakes today. Didn't you two take care of the smoking issue, huh? What did I do? Yang Ian's face turned pale with anger, and she gasped and gritted her teeth and asked. What time did you come to the company today? 11 o'clock, sorry. Han Qian yelled sorry to Yang Lan, then turned around and ran away. As a result, Lu Zhulong hugged him tightly from behind. Han Qian couldn't get away, and then he was grabbed by the arm and pressed against the head of Yang Lan. On the desk, Yang Lan held a stick and sneered at Han Qian. Hey, to deal with an unruly person like you, don't blame me and Deputy Lu for using force on you. Han Qian, bear with me. It won't hurt. The stick fell on Han Qian's butt. It is better to say that it is punishment than to make trouble. Both Yang Lan and Lu Zhuolong are a little worried that so many things that have happened recently have made Han Qian's spirit too heavy. The punishment is fake, but the distress is real. Lu Zhuolong's good impression of Han Qian, it all comes from the fact that he really treats Yang Lan as his own sister. Love the house and the bird. Han Qian rubbed his butt and left the general department, turning his head 3 times. When passing by, he met some staff members and was greeted for the first time. Brother Han, are you busy? If it's okay, I'll take a walk. Han Qian has really become the weirdest person in Glory. Some employees are husband and wife and never see each other on the same floor once a day. But this Han Qian is so good. I can see him on the 14th floor, 10 times a day. The first floor appeared and passed 4 or 5 times. Is Han Daxian-er's job just to take a walk? This is the second time Han Qian came to see Yan Qingqing. He wanted to come over to play games, but Yan Qingqing was not there when he came the first time. Yang Lan came back when he went. Now Han Qian came again, but he was stopped by Xiao Yangjie. Xiao Yangjie looked at Han Qian curiously with a gossipy face. Brother Qian, are you still a virgin? Boom. Han Qian gave little Yangjie a blow. Little Yangjie covered her forehead with the fire of gossip burning in her eyes. Han Qian said angrily in embarrassment. Little girl, why are you asking about this thing? What's going on? Is it embarrassing? Xiao Yangjie nodded vigorously and said solemnly. Shame. There are not many high school students nowadays. Brother Qian, I took some advertising photos for you on the telephone pole and wanted to send them to you. Then Mr. Yan told me that it was difficult for you to receive text messages on your mobile phone. I will print them out. It's out, please keep it. If you're sick, treat it. A stack of printed advertisements was stuffed into little Yangjie's arms. It clearly said, Old Chinese doctor specializes in treating syphilis. Han Qian's face turned livid with anger, and he reached out to grab little Yangjie. The little girl turned around and ran away. While laughing, Han Qian pinched little Yangjie's ears and said angrily to the abnormal little head. What's the matter? It's embarrassing for me to be a virgin at 25. Aunt G is 28 this year, isn't she still a pretty girl? Why don't you say anything about her? After saying this, the door of Yan Qingqing's office was opened, and Ji Jing walked out. Looking at Han Qian playing with little Yangjie, she curled her lips and said sarcastically. Your aunt, I love myself, you are a waste. Aunt Ji, you and I are at odds with each other. You treat the disease first. Ji Jing left, and she became what she was before. This made Han Qian very happy. In his opinion, solving Ji Jing's trouble was not a big deal. Isn't it just to scare people? Don't cry with gratitude. Can't stand it? Han Qian let go of Xiao Yangjie and pushed the door open and walked into Yan Qingqing's office. Yan Qingqing frowned and looked at the pile of paper in Han Qian's hand, wondering. Have you made a new plan? Yan Qingqing stood up with expectation when she saw the advertisement in Han Qian's hand. The old Chinese medicine doctor specializes in treating syphilis. Yan Qingqing's face turned ugly instantly, and she pulled Han Qian and walked out. Come on, I'll take you for treatment. It's all because of Wen Nuan. Why don't you let me touch you when you're married? If you divorced earlier, you wouldn't end up like this. Han Qian, that's not right. Aren't you still a virgin? At this moment, Han Qian was ready to give up. Why did Su Liang's words spread throughout the company in such a short time? Yan Qingqing let go of Han Qian and returned to her seat. Han Qian threw the advertisement aside and walked forward with a smile. Mr. Yan, please lend me your computer. No. Han Qian, I just noticed it. Are you very idle? Do you know how many pairs of eyes are staring at you now? Not to mention the employees below, there are 3 shareholders in the company, and none of them knows about you, Han Qian. I said, General Han, can you just let me save some time? I'm here to make you worry-free. I was taught a lesson by Sister Yang just now. I won't be late again. No. I absolutely cannot let you play games. Then let me get off work early. Yan Qingqing went crazy, walked around the table and kicked Han Qian's calf, then slapped him on the forehead and said angrily. You came to work at 11 o'clock, and now it's only 1:30 and you want to go home? What are you doing at home? When Nuan is not at home, so you won't be a virgin when you go home? Since you have nothing to do, you can handle all these documents for me. You can play games here all day tomorrow, and I'll prepare lunch for you. Han Qian asked seriously while holding his legs. Don't lie to me. Yan Qingqing didn't want to talk anymore. This guy's brain was really good and everyone envied him, but he was a bit unprofessional. Han Qian sat directly on Yan Qingqing's chair, picked up the documents on the table and started to read them. Most of them were reports and planning projects. Other small things could not be sent to her. Glory's benefits were very good, but its losses were huge. Very little. One of them is a water park project. It was good when it first opened, but it was better only in the first year. Recently, it has been in a state of loss. Han Qian's character of breaking the south wall is specifically picking on the hard bones. Yan Qingqing, who was standing aside drinking coffee, quickly put down her coffee and said as she watched Han Qian put aside other work and start preparing for this problem. Don't worry about it. This water park is very responsible. Just give him a headache for a few days before talking. Snapped. She slapped Yan Qingqing's fair little hand and frowned. Superficial, you want to take over just because of his lack of ability. I took a quick look and found that there are a lot of plans put forward by Gao Fulai, and the prospects are very good. Why can't this water park work? Playing it once is enough. Have you never thought about bringing in a Yangshen hot spring? I see it's not far from the seaside sanatorium. Aren't there many hot springs there? Can't you bring it here? The water park has a huge investment. It's too difficult to renovate and update it. It's better to let it go directly. Becoming a hot spring can make up for the fact that it cannot open in winter, and Honor has no contact with internet celebrities. Yan Qingqing became interested, looked at Han Qian with joy, and said with a charming smile. General Han is going on an expedition again. I'm just going to talk. Let's talk it over first. You ask me to play the game after I've dealt with it? No. Just play now while I go make you tea. It's Chinese New Year. It's Chinese New Year. Spend money, spend money. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 121. Chapter 121. My mother-in-law can bend and stretch. Yan Qingqing really went to make tea. When she came back, Han Qian really went to play games without processing documents. Yan Qingqing pulled up a chair and sat next to Han Qian and watched him play games seriously. Angry? No, 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 not angry at all. It is really not easy for Han Qian to use his brain without spending money. This guy rarely asked for money, which surprised Yan Qingqing. In fact, Yan Qingqing is not afraid of asking for money. Now Han Qian's asking price is getting lower every time. All within the range she can bear. Slowly, Han Qian's brows began to frown, and then he began to curse himself for his mistakes in operation. Han Qian had already laid down 3 times in this place. Because he could not save, he needed to play again. Gradually, Han Qian became manic and punched his left hand with his hand to vent his dissatisfaction with himself. At this time, Yan Qingqing stood up and unplugged the power supply. Han Qian raised his head and looked at Yan Qingqing and said softly, "I'll be there soon. No more playing. The last one." Han Qian's voice was very soft, but Yan Qingqing was angry and yelled at Han Qian. "I said I won't play anymore. Have you promised someone else that you will finish this game? Han Qian, can you stop treating other people's casual words as one thing? Every time you die after that, you will scold yourself and hit your hands. I don't want to see you like this and I won't let you play anymore." Faced with Yan Qingqing's roar, Han Qian was stunned for a moment, then turned around and started processing the documents on the table. Then Yan Qingqing waved the documents away from the table, walked around the table and took Han Qian's hand and walked out of the office. Qingqing seemed to be in a hurry. When she went out, little Yang Jia had a look of shock. When they arrived at the garage, Yan Qingqing put Han Qian into the car and drove away from Glory. Skip class. The general manager eloped with his employees. This is what Xiao Yang Jia is thinking. The Raptor was driving on the road at high speed. Han Qian was wearing his seat belt and holding the handrails with both hands. Yan Qingqing didn't say a word from the time he left the house. The car stopped at the amusement park. Han Qian looked at the balloon in his hand with a confused look on his face. He looked at Yan Qingqing and said in astonishment, "You want to take me? Play with this. Take you to relax. The carousel doesn't suit me very well." "Yeah, I know, I'm just going to tie the balloon here and play with that." Following Yan Qingqing's hand, Han Qian saw an entertainment facility that he couldn't name, a disc, a very tall pillar, and then a person was hit like a hammer by a pot. Tossing around. Han Qian immediately tied himself to the guardrail of the merry-go-round with the balloon rope and kept shaking his head. "Go ahead and play if you want." "I won't go, I'm afraid of heights, you go." After saying that, Yan Qingqing saw that Han Qian had tied her wrist to the guardrail, and she was instantly unhappy. She rushed forward to catch Han Qian. Han Qian was not a gentleman either. He pushed Yan Qingqing's head with one hand, and Yan Qingqing raised her head. As his legs were about to kick in the crotch, Han Qian suddenly tightened his crotch, holding Yan Qingqing's waist in his arms with one hand. He really didn't think that men and women couldn't understand each other, but he just thought that Yan Qingqing wouldn't be able to kick him. But Han Qian was careless. Yan Qingqing put her knee on Han Qian's crotch and threatened. Being a eunuch is better than doing that. What is Han Qian's character? The more you threatened me, the more unconvinced I became. I clamped my legs and took a deep breath. "I want to be your father." Then Han Qian regretted it. This bitch really hit her. At this time, her wrists were tied, but Yan Qingqing still failed to give Han Qian that thing. Han Qian would rather die. Then Yan Qingqing asked Han Qian if he wanted to play with a gun. This suggestion instantly interested Han Qian. He nodded vigorously. What man doesn't like that? Yan Qingqing nodded slightly. There are only civilian 5.6mm bullets, and there are relatively few guns. It's about an hour and a half's drive away. I'll make a call. Is it expensive? Not expensive, very cheap. Yan Qingqing brought Han Qian out for fun. She could tell from Han Qian's body that he was holding back a lot of things and didn't talk to anyone. After that, he kept getting into trouble with others. After hearing about the affairs of Jijing's family a few days ago, Han Qian needs to vent. Then Yan Qingqing took him to vent. Since you don't like amusement parks, then play something bigger. During the half-hour journey, Yan Qingqing stepped on the accelerator without using the oil, and filled up the gas once halfway. Looking at the number, Han Qian felt distressed. If he had money in the future, he would not buy this thing. Why drink gas? The Raptor roars onto the highway. Yan Qingqing also put on a pair of flat shoes, and she was riding fast. She had to admit that Yan Qingqing drove really steadily. After getting on the highway, She didn't say a word. She occasionally said something to you, a snail driving at around 100 yuan. Bad language. Han Qian asked softly if he wanted to drive the car instead. Yan Qingqing asked if she didn't have to rush home to take care of the baby and drink milk at night. Han Qian stopped talking. It was better not to talk at this time. It was very precise, and in an hour and 30 minutes, the two arrived at the shooting gallery. It was Han Qian's first time here, and he seemed a little nervous. Yan Qingqing seemed to be familiar with the place, walking around and explaining. In the past, several of the company's big clients were negotiated inside. Gao Zixi and I have both been here. It's your choice whether outdoors or indoors. Han Qian thought for a moment, and then asked in a low voice if he could try them all and play for a while. Yan Qingqing smiled and said softly. It's all up to you, you can have fun. As long as Han Qian could vent his anger, Yan Qingqing thought it was worth it and asked the coach to take Han Qian to indoor shooting first. Han Qingqing did not go in and stayed outside to sit with the owner of the shooting gallery and drink tea. He took out 10,000 yuan and put it on the table and pushed it to the boss. If it's not enough, make up for it. Brother Huang, are there any big guys here? The man surnamed Huang was about 50 years old, very tall, and seemed to be a retired soldier. He glanced at the money on the table and smiled. It doesn't look like a big customer. Are you in love? I just applied for two pretty big toys, MK416 and August. They are not open to the public. I can't say that I'm hiding them when you come. The young man doesn't look like them. The child of a rich and noble family. Yan Qingqing thought for a while and took out another 10,000 from her bag and laughed softly. He is under a lot of pressure and is very persistent in doing things. I am worried that his anger will become too strong over time, so I came here to let him vent. Ordinary people, Brother Huang, please stop gossiping. The price of bullets is still the same as before. It's gone up, but I'm not open to outsiders either. 10 knives for a pistol and 20 for a rifle. It's a beautiful knife. Yan Qingqing shrugged and continued drinking tea. It doesn't matter whether he has money or not, as long as he is happy. Yan Qingqing doesn't care how others comfort Han Qian or what Han Qian's life is like after get off work. She is only responsible for Han Qian being happy when he is around her and not being so gloomy. Yan Qingqing whispered. How can I play with my grassland and my horses if they are not full? Subscription, recommendation ticket, monthly ticket, reward. The 28th day of the 12th lunar month, applique flowers.